Did you know, like, at work, we're not allowed to let people under 18 use it? Because of, like, some pressure. Oh, wait, that's true. Yeah, I don't know why.
You can't Gatorade. That's
they can only like use the bathroom.
That's dangerous too.
I know. That's why I was like, but they have a paper saying that they could like use certain things. I guess.
You know it's not in my progress.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. There's not any. Yeah, it's only not like 13 age. I know. 14 age. I know.
Morning. So how was your long weekend?
Pretty good.
You guys went out? You guys, some of you guys went out town? Stay in town. So how is the paper? Too much or it's okay? It's okay. I grade all of your paper you see, right? On the canvas. So you don't have any problem with canvas? Easy, right? You just like drive a different car. Okay, let's start with 1 minute, please. Start with 1 minute to calm down our mind. Okay, so again, relax your mind, relax your muscle, just enjoy your breath. Don't use any force, physically, mentally, just be aware of it. Okay, so please, with that 1 minute, I will hit the table with this hand to start, and this one to stop. Okay, so please count. You. So you could concentrate well during that 1 minute, right? So has anyone of you try at home? Good. That's great. You know, meditation is so important that you need to practice in order to feel that. If you don't practice, it's meaningless. So when you practice, you feel how you enjoy every of your breath, how you recognize your emotion, and even later on how you recognize your mind. Okay, so today we discuss some kind of practice. I taught meditation before, especially when we talk about body scan. Still supposed to do the yoga mat, but you don't need to do that. We will see. Okay, so let's go back to our syllabus. Okay, number 1, describe the characteristics of mindfulness practice. Yes. What do you have there?
I have to find mine, but I could probably just explain it without looking at my reading response. In one of the readings, he gave 4 characteristics.
Yes.
And they're really simple after you read it. It's just any activity that makes you stop and become aware of your surroundings. And it needs to be something, though, that you can kind of check out on. Like he said, you could do it while you're brushing your teeth or like tasks like that, but not something where you really need to be thinking and paying attention. Like obviously when you're trying to listen to a lecture or something, you shouldn't be focusing on something else. But there are a lot of everyday activities that you can meditate during, like he said, brushing your teeth. I liked the washing the dishes one. I thought that was a good one to practice during, so I tried that one and I liked it. So just anything that makes you stop and become aware of your surroundings and more aware of yourself and present.
So basically, awareness, be present.
Oh, also, he said things that you're not judgmental.
Yes.
You cannot judge.
Don't say you cannot, don't do, but you don't cut that. Say that you cannot.
Yeah.
We train our mind, right? Or we were taught to judge people when we were young, right? Oh, he's handsome, is she beautiful, and so forth. We were trained when we were young up to now. So it's not easy for us to reverse the pattern. So we try to reverse the pattern, not to judge people. Why? Well, we need to reverse the pattern. What happens when we judge people? When we judge this and that thing?
We're either on this end or that, and we're not in the middle.
And what happened when either way, in either side?
Then you have suffering because you're not accepting. You're not in acceptance. You're either one way or the other. You're not accepting it for what it is.
Okay, now, thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. One important thing I want to mention is this: the purpose of mindfulness, the purpose of doing mindfulness or meditation is what? What is the purpose? The main purpose?
Insight.
Yeah.
Insight.
Yeah, but for what?
Become aware.
Yeah, that's the point. As you did mention the last instant, we transfer from being suffering to happiness. That's the main purpose. If we're not aware of this, right? If we're not here, right, what happened? We bring disaster, we bring problems ourselves. So that's the main purpose of practice meditation, to transform suffering into happiness by being here and now, by being aware of this, and last one, remember? Acceptance. Don't judge other people, that's mean we don't accept. We don't judge people. Okay, so let me go back here. Okay, here. Can you see?
It's kind of small.
Too small? It's good now?
Yes.
Okay. Another characteristics of mindfulness involve stopping versus stopping.
It's stopping paying attention to the past and the future. That's what you stop. You don't have to stop your life, you just stop that.
That's wonderful. Pay attention. That's the awareness, right? Pay attention now. Yeah. Becoming awareness of present moment realities. Here, become awareness of this. And when we get noises, let's take it down. Not judge whatever is happening as good or bad. Okay. Now, again, you need to understand why making the judgment bring suffering to us. Right? Why? Again. Why?
Because we want to accept things as they really are.
That's right. That's why we make judgment according to our views. Right? So that's why our mind are fluctuating because of this type of judgment. When we accept as the way they are, we make peace for ourselves. Okay. This is another one. After observation of oneself, the patient, and problems. These are the critical curiosity, very attentive, processing, very critical vision. This is an add-on. Courage to see the world as it is rather than as one would have it to be. You listen this one? Courage to see the world as it is rather than as one would have it be. Let's read. Let's say if one of your family members is hospitalized, right? Would you accept that? whether you accept or not, that's reality. And if you don't know how to deal with that, you bring the suffering for yourself and others. Especially someone may, let's say, boys always have that kind of problems, right? Like when someone passed away, right? When one of our family members passed away, at first, many people, we don't accept that, right? We don't accept that that person just passed away. It's happened to some of you, right? But no matter whether you accept or not, it's been done. But with the acceptance, you will have more peacefulness, and you try your best to pray for that person instead of crying and having more stuff. Of course, it's not easy to depart from our loved one. That's what's not living. Willingness to examine and set aside categories and personal perception is the same thing too. Oh, this one. Adoption of a beginner's mind. Where's it?
You start everything that you learn or everything that you hear like it's the first time that you've ever heard it or experienced it, so you can have an open mind and see it as a release for you.
I talked with one of my students. He's going to take MCAT in October. Actually, he delayed 3 times already because he's thought that he's not ready to take that MCAT. You know MCAT, right? So he's so worried about taking that test because that's the most critical or most important test for him to enter the medical school. I told him, well, try your best. And before you taking the test, go to my monastery, explore the forest, rest yourself for a day. And when you come to when it's time for you to go to take the test, just put that in, just think that you just start fresh with everything. And with that kind of freshness, you have more clarity. Does that make sense? What happens if we go today to carry all stuff in our mind? Sometimes this stuff, especially when they have multiple choice, right? Sometimes you circle the right one, and later on you have second thought, you circle the wrong one. And especially in that kind of test, MCAT or GRE. Have you taken GRE before? Or not yet? Or even SAT, right? When we do high school, right? So there's some part of the question that the answer is so close, A, B, C, so close that within an instant that you could not recognize you circle the wrong one. And so anyway, so with that kind of openness, with that kind of freshness of the mind, it's easy for you to see things clear. That's what the beginner mind is for. We need to tolerate awareness of one areas of incompetence. Where's me? Where's me? Yeah.
And maybe accepting your faults.
Yeah, because you're not perfect. You know, many people say that, oh, I have to do this in perfect way. What happened? No way. Is that right? I have to have straight A for every semester. Is that okay? It's okay. It stresses you out too, right? Right? I have to say perfectly in the public. Make you more nervous, right? So we can accept our mistake. We can accept our disadvantage, or we can accept whichever we have, whether we good or bad. But we make peace with ourselves. Connection between the known and the known. Where's it? Where's it? Between you and cell phone, between you and the laptop, you need to know your laptop. You need to know your cell phone. You need to know, right? You need to be present with your laptop, with your cell phone when you talk on the phone. Otherwise, sometimes if you get a new cell phone, right? You play around, and sometimes you get stuck. You don't know which way you call, or sometimes you have voice conference, right? So you have to use. You have to know it, know the uses. You need to know what kind of food you're eating. Otherwise, when you go inside here, we may not know what's happening, right? You have no and no other things. Compassion based on insight. We'll talk about that later on. And what is mean compassion based on insight? What's mean?
You have to understand why you're being compassionate.
Yeah. And many of you, you have children, right? The more you know about your children, the more you love them. If you don't know them, you will not love them. So you have a pet, right? If you don't know much about your pet, you may not care much. But the more you know them, the more you feel very compassion because of the insight. Present again, be present. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Number 2. This is one of the most important, Bradley. Number 2, Rebecca. Oh yes. So what do you have?
Well, I learned a lot from the readings.
Yes.
I knew that reading was very important, and just doing yoga and things, I was a little comfortable with the subject. But there are 2 things that I thought were really important, which were 2 reasons why we sometimes don't breathe with our diaphragm. We only breathe with our chest, so we're only going like this instead of going like this. And one of the reasons is aesthetics, so you don't want to push your tummy out because or because of stress, and that's the big one. So whenever we're breathing with our chest and we're not focusing our breath on our diaphragm, then we become even more stressed. So when you're dealing with chronic stress, your breath will be slower and more rapid, and when you're dealing with I won't find it, but yeah, so focusing your breath around your diaphragm, and also making sure that you're breathing in through your nose, which will reduce the amount of fluids that come out of your body and humidifies the air and reduces stress. And when you're not focusing on your breath, it can cause a lot of physical ailments as well as mental ailments. So you become more stressed when you're not breathing with your diaphragm, because your breathing isn't rhythmic, and so you're not focusing much on your body and what you're doing, so you're not knowing what's happening with yourself. So mind and body has to be connected. What else? That was really interesting. Thoracic breathing is what it's called when you breathe with your. Wait, is that? Thoracic breathing tends to cause slight pressure on the sternum. Okay, so that's chest breathing. So yeah, I wrote a quote on how it affects the body. It tends to cause slight pressure on the sternum and pressure on the solar plexus nerve. The natural stress response of this pressure is a rise in heart rate, blood pressure, and other parameters. Most importantly, thoracic breathing does not promote relaxation. So breathing is very important. Meditation.
Anyone with you? No inside box? Breath? Okay, let me explain more in detail on the breath, because somehow we know the breath is our life, right? Not the car, not the house. not the food, even not the drink, right? We can skip lunch for a week, still survive. We can skip drinking water for a week, still survive, but not for the bread. Is that right? So the bread is so essential to the point of our life. So let me tell you this. Here's our body, and here's our mind. Okay, now let's talk about body first. How it relates to the breath. Now, you know,
Need oxygen.
the oxygen, yeah, and release the carbon dioxide, right? Right, and we need to have that kind of attention. And what happened when we so tired physically? How is our breath?
Slow down.
No, when we're tired, fast. Because why? We need to consume oxygen, right? And let's say when we're running, right? When we're running, what happened? What happened to our breath? Faster, right? And bigger, and shorter, right? So, and what happened when we relax here right now? Here, when we sit in here, we feel more relaxed. Our breath slow and deeper. Right? Okay, so because we don't need to consume much, so that's why it's slow down and with the food be deeper. Okay, now how about our mind? When we stress out, how is our breath? Yes. And when we're so anxious, as before you walk into the room that you go to take a test, what happened? Your heart is pounding, right? And your breath is shorted too, right? Especially when you're taking the test, you have an interview, or you have any important matters to deal with, right? So, you may see that the breath connects with your body, the breath connects with your mind. When you are peaceful, how is your breath? How is your breath now? Slow and deeper. You see that? So that's why the breath is so important. And now let me put this way. When your body is here, right? And your mind is somewhere else in the universe, what is your breath? Could you recognize your breath? May not.
I'll hold my breath.
You hold your breath.
Yeah, if my mind's somewhere else, I'll be holding my breath and I don't even realize it. And then all of a sudden I realize it because I get dizzy and I'm like, I'm holding my breath. Because I'm not right there.
Okay. Sometimes, yeah, that's good. Sometimes we disconnected between the body and the mind, right? And that's why I think that's one of the problem. We hold our breath. Because sometimes we think something else, right? While we sit in here, we think something else. So we hold our breath until we're so exhausted we not wake up when we recognize we did it now. So you see that the breath connects with your body and the mind. That's why the breath is so. The breath is called as an indicator of the body and the mind. You see that when our body at rest, our breath is slow and deeper, and when our mind is calm, it's slow and deeper. You see that? But again, when our body is so tight, when it's so inactive, it needs to consume more oxygen. When our mind is so anxious, when our mind is so stressed out, what happens? We need to consume more oxygen for our body. Is that right? In psychology, we study about the body and mind connection. Right? Now, the body and mind connection.
Well, if you're like stressed out and not paying attention or anything, you could be low on some neurotransmitters, and then some that cause like anxiety and stuff like that get higher, so your body reacts to that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A lot of your body
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so see the breath
is considered the indicator of your body and mind. That's why now we use breath as a tool to calm our mind. So we know the speed of the breath depends upon the condition of our body and mind, right? So that's why we use this one here. Use the breath. Okay. Now the next step I want to explain is as when you explain that we breathe in our chest is inherently and of the stomach. Actually, again, in meditation, especially in Buddhist meditation, you don't have to deal with that. When you deal with that, you stress out. Yeah. You make yourself between a proper one, a correct one, and incorrect one. Is that right? You can breathe in and out naturally. Wherever it's calm. Acceptance. You need to judge whether it's above your chest, below your chest, it doesn't matter. So that's why you accept your breath. When you accept your breath, your body will be more relaxed. And your mind, again, in the state of calmness. Whether it's breath down to your chest or stomach. Make sense now? That's why acceptance is so important. Right? The more you are non-doing, you don't need to do anything. You don't waste your energy. That's called mindfulness. Keep knowing this. You are the Lord, that's all. Make sense? That's why you have to yourself. That's why you take off the stress elements of your mind. That's why you don't need to waste energy. You see that? How many of you have done breath yoga before? How? Is that the same as to
But I'm guessing the way I did it is like equal breathing.
Oh,
you have
okay. Equal breathing.
Yeah, you have to implement that while you're holding your different poses.
Oh, really?
And you have to pay attention to your breathing the entire time and make sure that your thoughts don't wander, because instead of just thinking about the present, you're more thinking of your breath or just the present. So it's kind of like meditating while you're doing yoga, but it's more concentrated on just your
More
breathing.
controlling.
Yeah.
Right? More controlling, right? What happens with controlling? What happens if you don't make your inhale acceleration equally? What happens?
Well, if you get distracted, then you'll start getting tired and red-faced, and you're gonna fall over out of your pose.
That's a problem, right?
No.
How is it a problem?
Oh, very similar to that, except that our instructor taught us that our inhalation was twice as long as exhalation, or the reverse, one of those. But I can't remember how to do it to remember. But it's the same thing. Control your breathing, and you're focusing on the way you breathe specifically very much, instead of accepting it per se as how it happens. You're counting the breaths. There's a little more concentration on breath. I guess I should say. Basically.
So you see these two different approaches. One is non-doing, acceptance, and another one is controlling, try to control your breath, hold your breath, and try to exhale quicker or faster and so forth. What is it?
I think it's more of like teaching yourself when you're controlling your breath. It's just trying to teach you to pay attention to it and why it's important. You're not trying to like change your breath for the time being. You're trying to change it forever and get a better habit of paying attention to your breathing life.
Yes.
Well, the way you described it seems like if you're trying to control your breath, then you may not be in the present because you may get disappointed if it doesn't work or if it's difficult. So you're focusing on your breath instead of just accepting the way things are, like you said, and being in the moment and just enjoying what you're doing.
You know, also, right? So important. That's why meditation, especially mindfulness, is so enjoyable. You need to do everything. You need to control your breath. You don't need to keep this somewhere in your body. Just let's see. Whether it's flow to flow. No right or wrong. That's right. There's no right or wrong. When we have that kind of training, we will take off the judgment. See that? We could accept that. There's no right or wrong. Like when you walk into the class, wherever you sit, that's okay. There's no right or wrong. You have to sit here, it's right. You sit there, it's wrong. That's a problem. Right? There's a problem. There's suffering to come from, right? Because you make use of that. So that's why we start with the prayer. Accept now you here and now. And aware, that's all. You don't need to do this. The more you control, the more stressed out you are. Make sense now? That's why this is one particular sutra. They say that. Sorry, stop this. Go back and forth. This is one particular sutra. This is called Anapasati. That means the breath sutra, the breath teaching. The teaching of how to do breath meditation. Have you know about this sutra? No. So this is one of the most important teaching about the breath. And in here, this is talk about the counting. This is talk about the focus. Anyway, I forgot that part, but the point is what to say is when we inhale, we can know that we are inhaling. When we exhale, we can know that we are exhaling. That's all. Whether it's just deep or shallow, fast or slow or fast, doesn't matter. The important thing is awareness. You're aware of your breath. The incoming and outgoing of the breath. That's all. It's easy, right? It's simple, but it takes time to train ourselves. Because at first, when I told you to sit for a minute, you get used to your breath yet? What do you think? Like sometimes you feel that you're still controlling it, right? Now. Because we not get used to that, and especially when you have done breath yoga before, it's not easy to reverse the pattern. So that's okay. It's that time to reverse the pattern, the time to train ourselves to accept our breath as the way we are. Let's say when we inhale in the full way, wherever it goes, whether it's to the chest or to the, so it doesn't matter. And when it's done with the inhalation, and it will go, it take turn to the exhalation, so to let the air out. And be mindful, that's all. Simple, right? So that's what is called breath meditation. And that's the Buddha mentioned that. When we inhale, we just know that we inhale, and when we exhale, we recognize as exhalation, that's all. Make sense now? So we can accept our breath
And when we accept our breath, what happens? We accept this body, this physical body. And when we have the acceptance, we make peace with our mind. You see the point? And that's why our bodies will be in the state of relaxation, and our mind will be in the state of calmness and peacefulness. It's so simple. You don't need to do anything. Like it gives the analogy of the muddy water. That if we put that cup of muddy water here, we don't need to do anything. To leave it there. What happened? Yeah, very truly. Because of, we can say, gravitation, right? The particles will be sailed out. And on the top, we have clean water. We don't do anything. So, but the more you touch or you shake that cup, what happens? Oh, the mud will come off. Make sense now? So that's why this is called non-doing. And next time we talk about the mindfulness, stress-based reduction, and mindfulness based cognitive therapies. We talk about non-doings and the difference between non-doings and response or reaction to our stress, to our mind. You see that's more clear. Okay? So that's why it's so important. At first, we need to recognize the importances. How about this? Let's practice 1 more minute. Okay, so again, yeah. So please remember, accept your breath as the way it is. You don't need to concern where it goes. It doesn't matter because it's your breath. Right? When you inhale, right, inhale in the full way, and after that, it's time for you to do the exhalation. Just accept that. Okay? So please again, do for me 1 more minute and to see how it's different from the other minutes that we start. Okay? So we have inhalation. You recognize whether it's long or short, doesn't matter. Take a shower, doesn't matter. Again, exhalation, whether it's long or short, doesn't matter. To accept and count. Inhale. Thank you. Okay, so again, inhale, okay, and exhale. Count 1. Naturally, don't remember, just stay in the state of non-doing. You don't need to do anything physically and mentally. Just be aware of that. Just be present moment with your breath. Yeah, accept whichever breath you have. Okay, let's do 1 minute, please. You see how different. Okay, please go. you? 9.
15. 11. 18.
You recognize the difference now? How? How is different?
Just seemed more natural to me, even though it was faster.
Yeah, I was only one off from usual, so. I was only one breath more than usual. So.
Really fun. How is different?
I mean, it was more natural for me because it's harder for me to let a natural breath flow when I'm trying to concentrate on it. When we do that exercise there, I want to kind of control it, make it a certain way. It's easier for me not to do that. But this one was a little more natural and just kind of flowing. So
Yeah. How about you? Is it different?
Different. It seemed like easy, like it's smooth flow, like in a way, like calm, feel like more easy to concentrate on the brain.
How about you, Sam?
I was a little more uncomfortable, but that's just because I've been through this. My brain is going up right now.
You have energy, right?
So.
Okay. How about you?
It seemed quieter for me.
How about you?
I'm still having trouble keeping my mind on my breath and not everywhere else.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think I breathe faster and more rapidly. And before, when I was doing it, I was trying to focus on elongating my breaths because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And so this time I felt like I did a lot more.
How about you?
Mine has been 9 every time, and this time it felt the same. I guess I just already got my breathing down for that. I just mainly focus on trying to keep my mind where I'm at.
You feel at ease now?
Yeah, it was a little bit more natural. I think I did the same thing. Elongate my breaths from my practice of yoga. This time it was 5 more breaths. It was just more natural flowing, and I could feel my heart more.
Mm-hmm. So especially if you have backyard at home, right? Now it's still summer in fall, actually fall, right? But we still enjoy the outdoor activities. So you just put the chair outside there. Of course, be careful about the tick and the mosquito. But anyway, when you stay outdoor, you feel more relaxed with the nature. You don't need to make a judgment. You just enjoy that kind of fresh air, right? You can flow, we go with the flow. And when you train your mind in that kind of ways, when you drive the car, especially go downtown Louisville, Louisville is not much to compare with Los Angeles and New York, or even Houston, Atlanta. Traffic, hours and hours, right? But if you train yourself, okay, when we get stuck with traffic, that's okay too. But what happens when many people they don't accept that? They stress out, right? Because they hurry to go to the work and so forth. But the more they do, the more they stress out. So that's why we train ourselves first, starting with the breath. Make sense now? That's why I like to spend this 50 minutes to talk about breath. And we talk more in time to time. So you see the difference now. So please go back, and especially now, we can still can enjoy the weather, right? Don't wait until it's too cold to get out there. You can recognize the freshness of the air and so forth. Okay, so let's go back to let's see is that number 3? Yes, we passed them. 3. Jessica. Oh, good.
Well, is it big? Can you pronounce it?
Vipassana.
Vipassana.
Yeah, Vipassana.
I thought it was a really interesting reading, really interesting meditation. I took the 2 words, or the reading mentioned Pasana and V, and broke it down. And Pasana meaning to see or perceive the world, and V, which had a huge connotation, but I guess just basically means in a special way. And I took it to mean that special way includes looking at our world like we've been talking moment by moment with extreme clarity and precision. I mentioned the word precise a lot. And sort of breaking down each component sort of as a distinct and separate entity so that eventually you find the truth of that component. I have to make a really bad pop culture reference, but it kind of reminds me of Neo from The Matrix. How he can sort of see through everything, and everything is all light and energy and all that stuff. I also think I remember reading that the end result of Vipassana, which I'm not saying right, is liberation. Is that right? Which sounded really intense. I think it was the idea of literally becoming one with reality or becoming so close. I think isn't it very hard to achieve from what I read? No. Okay. It sounded really difficult. But it was a really interesting reading. I really especially liked one passage that mentioned hearing a dog barking in the middle of the night, and most of the time you would get irritated or maybe or you would overlook it. But I think according to this, it said instead view the bark sort of as a like a bunch of, out of a sea of silence suddenly comes all these sonic vibrations, and they flow into your ear, and then they flow into your nervous system. That's kind of an amazing thing. So, really interesting. That's what
You mentioned this word, liberation. What's the liberation? You liberate yourself from working. Is that right? When you were young, when you were little in Vietnam, in the class, my teacher taught us about the story. This is a king who built his palace nearby a waterfall. And it's so annoying. So he ordered his soldier to destroy that waterfall. The more he tried, the more suffering he is. What happens if you don't accept the dog barking?
That's
acceptance. And you liberate yourself if you accept that. Is that right? Sometime in our neighborhood, right? Sometimes at night people turn on the music so loud, right? So annoying. And even if you actually your mothers, when you have a little baby, somehow they cry at midnight, so annoying, and you may be tired. But because you feel love. Without your love, you will not take care of that kind of baby. So anyway, so when we accept that, anything happening, we have the kind of liberation. You understand that now?
Is acceptance kind of more of accepting the fact that there's nothing you can do to change it?
In many ways. You try your best to change. If you can, nothing can.
You kind of got to know the difference of what you can change and what you can't change.
Mm-hmm. That's the point. Like, let's say, when it's time for you to go to take a test, of course, you cannot wait for last minute to study. And you accept that you get an F. No way. You have to study first, right? You have to study hard. You put all your effort in studying, in memorizing the word and so forth. But when you come to the class to take the test, you just accept your grade as the way they are. You try your best. It's not the thing that you give up everything and accept that in a negative way. You understand that? So, and of course, talking about the waterfall or the barking dog, you cannot do anything with. Is that right? It goes beyond your abilities, right? And how about the people who has too much temper? We cannot do anything about that. We cannot change except ourselves. You see that? When we recognize that, we more liberated. It makes sense now? Right? Okay. So, okay, thank you. You want to say anything about Vipassana?
Sure. The Vipassana, the difference, there's several different types of meditation. Vipassana meditation comes from the Theravada Buddhism, Pali Canada literature. It's really popular in the U.S. and other places because it can be practiced in conjunction with or separate from religious beliefs, because it's not an actual religion. But the main goal is insight meditation.
Oh, okay. That's another name of Vipassana. You follow, right? You know that?
Instead of
the other one, it says Vipassana. Vipassana. This is another name of insight. This is an English translation, insight meditation. Yeah.
Other forms of meditation, concentration is like the goal. and which leads you to a state of peacefulness. But Vipassana uses concentration as a tool rather than the goal. It's not the objective. The objective is insight. So if you concentrate on your breath, and then you can start becoming aware of who you are and becoming aware of the present, and you gain insight to yourself and your surroundings as they really are, instead of how you think they are.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one, samatha. Samatha, so that we can make comparison. Who does that? Yeah, please.
My notes are on my phone.
Mm-hmm. Samatha.
Yeah, I found it to be like the objective is to calm your mind and there's many different things you can focus on.
Yes.
There's 40 actually,
Yeah.
and depending on your state of mind and how you feel and your temperament will depend on what you should focus on. But the ultimate goal is to calm and I'm trying to think of how else to put it other than to calm yourself, like calm your mind and be at peace with them.
Okay. This one. Anyone does this one? Number 4, is that right? Number 4. Yeah. Okay. Now let me explain more detail about this so that we can go. Okay. Samatha is the state of concentration. Vipassana is the insight. What's the difference? Remember for you? What's the difference? What is concentration and insight? What's the difference? If you, before you finish up this class, you need to recognize these two terms. Insight and concentration, forget about it. What's the difference between insight and concentration?
Concentration, meditate, more control.
No control in here. Here, in any kind of practice, if you talk about controlling, that's not the mindfulness. Yes, sir.
I think concentration is more based on focus, and insight's more based on realization.
Kind of, but I didn't explain before.
Is insight a result of your concentration?
Result? Not really. Anyone?
Concentration more active.
More active? It is not active?
The inside part, inside.
What?
I feel like inside, like she said, is more like something that is a result. It's a state of being. Concentration is also a state of being, but concentration takes you being active.
What kind of actives?
We must not know. We don't know.
Alright, let me explain you.
We're accepting it. We don't know.
No matter what practice, no control in here. As much as you put the word controlling, that's not meditation anymore. That's not mindfulness anymore. Right? Okay, now, concentration. When you listen to my explanation, you concentrate on the right. But when you move back your mind, your eyes to your laptop, you see what's going on inside your laptop. That's called insight. All of it is that Vipassana has been a series of concentration. When you listen to me, you concentrate. When you buy a piece of apple, you recognize. When you drive the car, you recognize. When you write the essay, you recognize. That's called Vipassana, insight. A series of concentration. When you do things, when you only focus on one thing, that's concentration. Is that right? Make sense now? Of course, when you concentrate, it doesn't mean that you control it, no. You can focus on that object, that's all. Only one object. And now, instance, you recognize, you are aware of a series of events, a series of objects.
Would concentration be somewhat controlling? Because, like, if I'm going to write a paper, I am basically forcing myself to think about this topic and not get distracted by other topics.
Not controlling. You put yourself, you put your mind into the paper, not controlling.
Why am I allowing my mind to go elsewhere?
Because you have tendency, right? Our mind have tendency to fly everywhere. So we have the kind of discipline. We have that kind of training. But when you really focus your mind, you don't need to think about, oh, I need to control my mind. I need to bring my mind back. No.
So discipline is not really controlling?
At first, you need to have some kind of discipline. Let me put it this way. Remember the first day you drove your car? You think that you control your car, right? You control the wheel. You have to demand yourself, order yourself how to press the brake pedal. Remember? But now you control the car. Oh, you step inside the car and you drive naturally. At first, when you have got used to that, you think you may feel that you control it. But then later on, when you really focus your mind on certain things, you don't control anything.
So it's kind of like muscle memory.
So like,
You are in tune with that object. Make sense?
insight is using what you concentrated on, is that it?
A series of concentrations.
Right, all the things that you've concentrated on in the past leads you to.
No. Nothing to do with past, nothing to do with present, nothing to do with controlling. Okay? So I want to make clear that otherwise it's confusion. Okay, let me go back to concentration first. Let's say when you talk with your girlfriends, you love her too much. You think you control her, you control your speech, or you are in tune with her.
I mean, I guess you don't really control
See
your
that?
speech. You're just kind of letting it be.
Yeah, you be there with her. It's not in control, right? But when you go to when you talk with some, let's say, strange lady, strange girl, you feel nervous, right?
Yeah.
Because that's worse. You don't know what she think about.
Yeah.
But when you really recognize, oh, she's my loved one, you're in tune with her. You're wise with her. Nothing to control. Make sense now?
That makes sense.
See that? But when you talk with a stranger, right, with your boyfriend and so forth, you're nervous because you feel that you control your speech. Your heart's pounding. Right? You understand now?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Okay, now, talking about the past now. Let's say when time for you to eat, you just eat. You enjoy the food. You just enjoy your hamburger. You just enjoy your pizza. But when you stand up to talk with your friends, you enjoy to talk with her or him. At the present moment, after you're done with eating, you see that? Nothing to relate with the past, but we are with the present moment. For example, when I approach her and talk to her, I really focus my conversation with her. But when I move to you, I focus my concentration with you, my conversation with you, and so forth and so forth. That is called series of concentration. That's called vipassana. If I talk to her, don't talk to you, but I don't pay attention, and I'm not focused. That's not vipassana. But when they focus and talk with you, we have that type of conversation, we're done and move on. I am present moment with her. I'm present moment with her. You see that? Make sense now? So whichever it is, whichever I do, whichever thing I talk, I have to have that type of concentration. But when I move myself into different events, into different people, but I'm still with them, I'm still aware of them. I still accept the way they are, the way you dress yourself, the way you talk. That's called vipassana. That's called insight. It makes sense now? So these two techniques still have the components of acceptance, awareness, and here and now. The difference is the insight means we move ourselves into different events. Make sense? Nothing to relate with the past or nothing to relate with the future, but now. Is that clear? Right? Is it clear now? Okay, so that's good. Is it clear? I think it's so important for you to recognize us because we try to practice. Let me see. Give you, and I need volunteer. Please. Okay, you said please stand up there. Now, that's concentrate for me how you pick up any object you can concentrate on. Yeah. What do you think about that pen?
It's purple.
Okay. What else? What else?
It's here. I don't know. I remember how I got it. I guess like thinking about that, but I don't know.
The weight of this?
It's light. It's not really too hard to hold.
And the ink?
It's black ink.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We need one more volunteer. We need one more. Yes, please. Okay, now talk about inside meditation. Can you demonstrate?
Can I do some restraint?
Demonstrate.
Demonstrate?
The inside, how?
Inside?
Can you?
I guess so. I'll try.
You can whichever way you want. You can do. It's up to you. How can you show? How can you show the classmate that you really have that insight in every moment of your work, every moment of your talk, and so forth?
I don't know. I don't know how to demonstrate.
Like I told you, when I approach to her, I talk with her.
Yeah.
That I'm present with her. I'm present moment with her. But when I move to her, this lady, I'm with her.
So it's
Yeah. Do anything. Yeah. Just have that kind of with other people. You feel about him? You recognize him? You recognize how he look, how he smile? You recognize?
well, you're not smiling.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we both.
What happened? What happened when you talk to him and somehow you still talk to her? There's confusion? No, I mean that.
Oh.
You understand that now? See, in our daily life, right? Especially when you have a group of people surrounding you, you try to talk with this person and jump back and forth. Sometimes you're confused, right?
Yeah.
So that's a practice.
So I
Of,
demonstrated that.
yeah. We need one more volunteer. One more times. Yeah, please go ahead.
What am I doing?
Yeah, the inside one.
The inside one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep this simple.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm noticing my pen is wood, and someone made it for me, and gave it to me as a gift. She's not using a pen. I'm not using. Oh, she has a stylus that she uses for that. And then I'm going to notice that Rebecca's pen is blue.
Talk to her, not talk to me.
I messed up. I talked to him.
See
Hi, Rebecca.
you have to divide your mind, right?
How are you? And then I know that I like your shirt. It's a Beatles Dr. Who shirt. It's very cool. And she has a green. You have a green pen.
Thank you. See it now? It's easy now, right? So we've spent so much time with the. Is it clear now? Do you understand the difference between vipassana or insight and concentration, right? Yes, sir.
How would you define insight? I think that's kind of where I'm a little lost. Because my definition of insight is like gaining knowledge of, like I'm getting knowledge into something that I see. Like I can get insight into this pencil maybe by saying, well, this is. I mean, I don't know if I can really get insight into a pencil, but
Remember, this two techniques involve again here and now. Awareness, not knowledge. Awareness.
This is quite different from knowledge. Is that right? Why? And acceptance. Why awareness is different from? It's just good. That's okay for us to spend more time about this. What's the difference between awareness and having awareness and getting knowledge?
You might assign some value to knowledge, or some, not necessarily judgment, but give it. If you don't feel like you're acquiring enough knowledge, that might lead to some issue. Maybe I don't.
You already have what you're aware of, and knowledge is something that you don't have yet. Or I associate knowledge with something with like learning something new and being knowledgeable. As awareness is just something. It's there. You're born with awareness. Like you're a baby, and I don't know how babies think, but you're aware that you're here. But you gain knowledge as you progress in life. I don't know.
Yes?
I kind of think knowledge to me is things that you already knew in the past and you've already judged them and categorized them, but awareness is what is right now. I'm holding the status, this water is cold, I'm sitting in this lecture.
That's the point. You mentioned that's one important point too. To enjoy our life as the way the baby enjoys, without any kind of judgment. You see, that's the difference between awareness and knowledge, gaining knowledge. Gain knowledge that you gain something here and you filter out some elements that you don't want to, right? And you accept something that you want to keep, right? But awareness means whichever things come, whichever things you have, you accept that. You recognize us. Yes?
So like a baby would acknowledge and be aware when his or her mother walks in the room. They're aware, my mother's in the room.
That's all.
Where a teenager might say, my mother's in the room and she has a stressed out look on her face. Is she okay?
Okay.
Right? Is that different? Is that more like knowledge? Right?
So that's why we train ourselves to be aware of things. That's all. It's simple. So that we can be free from filter out things or from settling out other things. You see that? You see that now? It's not doing that. We still have only a few minutes, and that's okay for us to spend more time about this too. Let's just go back to which number is skip number 5. What's number 5 though? What does number 5 check?
Oh, was that the discard the body scan?
Yeah, body scan. What is have the body scan?
I mean, I've done meditation before, in that I kind of did a guided meditation, and basically the body scan is observing, I guess, and feeling the different parts of your bodies and how it's being aware of how they feel. And doing that, you can sometimes maybe observe that a certain part is tense, and that can let you know that, because certain, I guess, emotions and feelings can cause certain parts of the body to hurt or feel a certain way. So that kind of gives you, I guess, insight into the feelings you may be having that you could be unaware of. Like if you notice, like your back is hurting, well, what's causing your back to hurt? You can kind of maybe, I guess, dig down to the roots of the problem or what have you. Maybe it's not problem's not the best word, but yeah.
Who done body scan before? Oh, you done before? Oh, yeah. You done too? The same too? The same as you?
Yeah.
Is anything different?
In theater class,
In theater? Oh, really?
Yeah, in theater class, he had us all lay on these mats and then go down from the top of our head and relax each part of our body. And then we did like this really crazy mental out-of-body experience. But,
oh, really?
But first we did a body scan.
Oh, okay.
The second part, I don't know.
Oh, really? How the body?
Oh, it was like he had us picture this story he was talking about in our mind. He had us like picture ourselves coming out of our body and seeing ourselves laying there, and then seeing yourself above the building, and then seeing yourself up in the sky, and then like taking us to a faraway place just to like see what your mind could do and how imaginative you could be. But first we did a body scan.
Actually, I did this talk to my young students. what I call, I give them a spaceship to fly around universe. But that's not body scan. Body scan doesn't mean you're here with your body.
Right. That's what we did first, and then we left.
Okay, again, body scan still follow this one. Here and now, aware acceptance. Sometimes especially the older you are, right? The easier for you to be irritated, right? Especially when it change, when the weather is changing, right? Too hot, too cold.
Yes, that's true.
So we need to recognize why we have that kind of irritation. As once we recognize that, we would accept that and move on. So that's the purpose of body scan. Okay, we have only 5 more minutes. How about the next one is walking, right? Walking. Yeah, what do we have there? You wrote beautiful articles, or beautiful written response. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, the reading I did focused on like how to do walking meditation, but it also talked about the advantages of it. But how this guy did it was you start with your feet close together and you clasp your hands in front from behind you, and you look like directly ahead, 2 meters out where you are, and as you take each step, you're thinking or verbalizing, all right, left foot, right foot, you're everything that you do, you're aware of, I'm taking a step, now I'm stopping, and now I'm turning around, and you go back and forth that way. And some of the benefits of it are like, one of the main ones was that you're getting exercise. I mean, instead of sitting down while you're meditating, you're getting more opportunities to walk than you would be in your typical everyday life. You're also increasing your patience and endurance because you have to be aware of yourself because it's really slow and repetitious practice. So he said that can be generalized to like your life in difficult situations because you're increasing your patience while you're walking, but then whenever you're going through trials and suffering, then you can bring that, what you've learned over to that. It also says that it helps people, it's been shown to help people with illnesses that cure their illness because they're bringing their mind and their body together, and they're aware of how their body feels. And promotes better digestive health because you're kicking your metabolism to drive by moving. And it says it has longer lasting concentration effects compared to sitting meditation. He didn't say why.
Yes, since we don't have much time left, how about you? Well, cooking, right?
Yeah.
Cooking meditation. Can you do that? Short, quick.
Yeah, the favorite one I read is a lot of people they can like practice like yoga or breathing is because some people they just don't feel like they like sanctified, like sanctification on that. So instead of trying to focus on something you don't like, so a lot of people really love cooking. Like during the time when you cook, you have to actually like really focus about what you need to prepare. Like when you try to make a cupcake, like those cupcake. So you have to focus like how many eggs you need to take it out, and you need to measure about how many gallons milk, flour, and then sugar. So during the time you try to prepare like the ingredients for you to cook. So actually like you focus your mind on doing only one object. It's about preparing. So during that time, that means you actually like consciousness on at the moment where you at and what you're doing. And you can watch about your action, like you touch something, you touch like your plate, or you touching like the bottle, and sometimes like you clean your hand, you feel like the water is cold or warm or hot. So actually that is like increase your passion. Like the more you can increase your passion, you can like actually feel to like actually connect with 3 levels of the mindfulness is here and now, and also you're aware about what you're doing because you don't want to mess up your cupcake, because if you only want to run one step, you're going to be like mess up everything. And also during the time you're waiting for like a cupcake in the oven, so you're gonna be at the level of like acceptance. That means is during that time, you accept it is, you be accepted about when and how long exactly the cupcake will be done. So during that time is you actually like put your mind like relax, like all the way, so you're fully aware of everything.
Thank you. So we out of time now, but we still have plenty of time to talk and practice about walking, mindfulness. Of course, here we don't have cooking class here, but we will do some kind of practice next time, especially when we talk about the MDSR, mindfulness-based reproduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapies, acceptance, cognitive therapy, and so forth. We still have more time to practice while we're learning the theories. Okay, so let us move on. Please. Oh, we miss you, right? Point number 7. Can you get your spread for us next time?
Like she said, I went with.
How about the next time?
Oh, next time.
Okay. Let's be next Monday. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let us go back to. Can you see? It's too small.
Too small.
It's better now.
Still kind of small.
Very small.
Too small. Better. Can you see? Can you? Okay. Can you see? That's okay now? Okay. How about number 1, please? Reflective meditation. Number 1. Yes. JT. Number 1. Number 2. Regenerative meditation. Yes. Jacob, right?
Yes.
Yes. Number 3, please. Sorry. 2. Number 3. Eating mindfulness. Okay. Jennifer, right?
Yes.
And you do both, right? Cooking and eating. Okay, good. And number 4. Mindfulness in your daily routine.
I'll do that one. Tina.
Okay, Tina. Okay. Yes. Number 5. Mindfulness of your domestic chores. Rebecca. Number 5. Number 6. How mindfulness can be with your autopilot thoughts. Yes. Jessica. Number 7. Yeah. This is number 7. Number 8 is describe difficulty practice mindfulness. Yes. That's right. And who else? You which number?
8, please.
You do 8. And him, you do which number? Number 4. Who else? Did I miss anything? Tina, Ian, I like to see you. Okay, thank you. So see you next Monday. Can you give me a minute? Can you give me a minute?
You did, were you able to figure that out?
Yeah, I already signed up for like the insurance service that it shuts my on there. So I got
No,
to
did you sign for the insurance as well?
pay the $20 and everything.
Yeah, they should, I think they're ordering those.
I have to